everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on Nootropics. Thanks so much for being with me. So we're going to do a beginner series. Those of you that are advanced in nootropics and already kind of know all this stuff, there are plenty of other videos, in fact, 1,000 plus on nootropics that you can go browse to get more advanced information. But, you know, look, I know there's a constant influx of new people that come to the channel. So I'm going to do a beginner series on all the major racetams, all the chemicals that we usually talk about, really the compounds that are all classified as nootropics that we, you know, as a collective of nootropics users all consider the classical nootropics. And we're going to start with Aniracetam. In the meantime, a couple things. What supports this broadcast, number one, is the Cortex stack. Powerful nootropic stack. There's two options with Cortex. First of all, focus, motivation, mental energy, will to work, drive to work, dopamine centered, little bit of cholinergic input. You can buy the Cortex stack one-off, just like buy the Cortex stack, try it. Or if you regularly use it, do it. But if you regularly use it, better option is auto ship. We have the option to have it shipped to you every month for cheaper on auto ship. You basically have to do nothing. It just auto processes and sends you nootropics to your doorstep every month. Do that at livecortex.com. What's relevant to this video for those of you that are new is Nootropics Ground Zero. That is a video course that I created for people that are new. So after you get done watching this video, if you're new, go get Nootropics Ground Zero because it's going to clue you into a lot of other things in a more advanced way. If you're a guy that needs to raise test, upgraded Viking Testosterone Protocol, get that at livecortex.com. If you are a guy suffering from PSSD, there's two options: PSSD full, which really gets you substantial results. The goal is 90+% symptom removal, but it's expensive and it's time consuming. It lasts a long time. It lasts really until you're at that 90% plus mark. But for those of you that don't have the budget, PSSD basic will get you started on a good regimen. We'll do some fact finding, get you on the track to getting recovered and having some progress. Get that at livecortex.com. Last thing, one-on-one biohacking with me. Mostly middle-aged businessmen have been like the bulk of my clients, but it's really anyone, could be a young person too, that fully wants to optimize hormonal profile, energy, and brain performance with all the chemicals that we have at our fingertips. 3.5 months or 6 months. Do that at livecortex.com. Okay, so we're going to talk about Aniracetam. So first of all, what is it? Okay, so like going back to the history, this is what makes nootropics so interesting. Like actually everything about nootropics is interesting. But Aniracetam was really, like a lot of other smart drugs out there, meant to be an anti-Alzheimer chemical, right? You know, that's what it was ultimately being studied for, just like a lot of the other racetams are, focusing primarily on the system, the acetylcholine cholinergic pathway system of memory, right? Because that's the larger deficit in Alzheimer's and dementia and some of those neurodegenerative diseases. You know, pharma has tried multiple approaches to try to alleviate Alzheimer's, not so much focusing on the plaques that build up in people's brains, beta amyloid plaques, but mostly choline, acetylcholine, cholinesterase inhibitors, things of this type. Aniracetam is very well studied, and what we found is that younger people without neurodegenerative issues can take Aniracetam and realize a performance benefit, specifically in memory, but in a lot of other things too. So that's kind of what Aniracetam is. It's one of the major racetams, classic chemicals with the suffix racetam, that mechanistically are similar, but in their own ways do different things. Okay, so that's really what Aniracetam is. What is the dose range? Well, that kind of fluctuates in my mind because I still see new experiences of people benefiting from a mere 50 milligrams of Aniracetam. So we can start there. 50 to 1,500 milligrams would be like my now dose range for Aniracetam. Getting into the nuances of when you should dose which dose, we get into a lot of that stuff in Nootropics Ground Zero. But always start low and move your way up. Primary effects of Aniracetam. Working memory, so an improvement in your ability to hold things in the front of your conscious brain, many things, even multiple things that are unrelated, and then go back to them, take them out of your memory, put them back into your memory, have them on hold in your memory while you're working on something else or thinking about something else, then bring them back in. Great for compartmentalization because that's sort of what that, you know, that kind of brain state allows you to do. But at the same time, Also used for multitasking, right? It's just the way that it sets up your brain. You can switch between 3 to 5 important ball moving tasks that you situated on your to-do list a lot easier with Aniracetam in the mix. So just put your brain in a state where that's easier. Somebody actually asked that in one of the nootropics groups. Aniracetam all the way. But also what it's used for, and one of its primary effects is waking up the brain to have energy to start working, right? Starting working or doing work, like when you previously, like in the last hour or 2 hours or whatever time, haven't been doing work, is a challenge for everybody, right? Even people that function like at super optimal levels. Obviously it's easy for them, but for everybody. And Aniracetam is one of those chemicals that makes that process a lot easier. You look at your to-do list or the things you know you should do, and you're like, oh, it's daunting or whatever, I don't want to start. Aniracetam makes that process a lot easier of just starting. Also used for and effective for cerebral-related tasks and working memory-related tasks. That also fall into the category of things that you probably just like don't want to start doing. If you're the admin of a company and you work on the financial side, and well, you're forced to do things. But say that you're the admin of your own company, or you're working on the financial side of your own company, dealing with QuickBooks and crunching numbers, accepting transactions, categorizing transactions. That's a very tedious task, but it's also a cerebral task, right? You got to be. Your brain has to be processing really well. Aniracetam helps for that. General processing and otherwise cerebral memory tasks like programming. Can't tell you how many programmers I've either worked with on a one-on-one biohacking basis or that I've just interacted with in some capacity that benefit extremely from Aniracetam, because it puts the brain in a place where the type of thinking that you need to do and the type of brain operation that you need to do while programming is easier and better. Okay, so that's kind of the rundown on what Aniracetam is used for. Best stacked with choline source, obviously, not necessarily for everybody. The nuance on that, get into Nootropics Ground Zero or Nootropics Masterclass. These are more advanced courses on nootropics. Some people need choline sources, some people don't. It really depends on if you're getting it in your diet and your particular brain makeup. Energy nootropics, things like dynamine, chemicals like theobromine, just stuff that sort of turns on energy. Caffeine, right? Aniracetam synergizes extremely well with caffeine, because though it's different mechanisms, ends up kind of providing the same kind of brain, which is a stimulated brain. Stacks well with energy nootropics plus L-theanine. Okay, this is like one of the most simple but awesome combinations of nootropics. You have like Aniracetam, and then you throw in 50 or so milligrams of like dynamine or teacrine, and then you add a tad bit of L-theanine to just sort of balance that out and give a little calm to the stack, and then you end up with this really great balanced place. Could be one of the like combinations of ingredients for flow states. Aphenols. Aniracetam stacks well with aphenols. Modafinil, adrafinil, other aphenols. It just has to be put together in a way where you've got the aphenol dose and the Aniracetam dose situated correctly. Like a good combination would be like a medium dose of modafinil, let's call it 75 milligrams, and then a medium dose of Aniracetam at 400. And lastly, it can be used as a staple or an element in your morning supplement regimen. So say you take a B complex and like a multivitamin in your regimen. If you add a medium dose of Aniracetam, that profoundly cranks up the energy element of that morning stack. Adding coffee to it, which I assume most people that are watching also drink coffee in the morning, really makes it a powerful thing. You get into the area of like, should you cycle versus not cycle? Again, more advanced stuff on Nootropics Ground Zero and some of our other video courses. But ultimately, you can get away with 3-4 days a week, medium or low dosing Aniracetam with your morning supplement regimen, okay? Can stack with basically dopamine, noradrenaline, adrenaline-related or fostering chemicals like tyrosine, phenylalanine, and P. However, you've got to monitor that and be careful with your doses to not get overstimulated. You know, if there was sort of hierarchy or something of like what is better to stack it with, it would be the former that I mentioned, certainly not tyrosine and phenylalanine. It can be done, but you got to be careful because you can end up in a place where you're overstimulated. So dose carefully. Hope that makes sense. Thanks so much for watching. This has been the first episode of the beginner series on nootropics. We're going to be talking about the rest of the racetams and again, everything else that is classified as typical nootropics that we usually discuss. For those of you that are new and benefiting from this video, ultimately what you'll get a lot more benefit from is the course Nootropics Ground Zero. You can find that at livecortex.com. I created that course and filmed it. It's me on there with a digital whiteboard for people that are new, to save you many years of scouring the web for disparate information that most of the time does not make sense and is not applicable to you. We give you a framework for how to actually use nootropics with Nootropics Ground Zero. Find that at livecortex.com. All the rest of our products that we talked about in the beginning, go back and rewatch it if you have to. The Cortex Stack, Nootropics Masterclass, 101 Biohacking with me, you can all find at livecortex.com. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Talk to you next time.